If you're ever interested in physics, I suggest that you start reading physics, you start studying physics, once you start getting interested. I got interested at a very young age. When I was 5 years old, I was interested in biology, but then when my dad died and he passed this book to me, it was called The University of Physics. And it was made by Sears Zemensky in 1946. And it was a book that comprised of all the types of stuff you needed to know about motion, about physics. So I started to read it, and I didn't understand anything of it. So I put the book on my shelf, and many years later, when I was 12, I decided to get that book and read it again because I thought maybe I could understand some of the stuff in there, considering that I read it at a very young age. So then, now that I'm older, I can probably understand a bit of it. So I opened up the first book, and it described about vectors and laws of motion, Newton's law of rotation, and Newton's law of motion. And I started reading over it, and I soon understood what the book was trying to tell us. And one of the stuff it said is that one of Newton's law of motion was an object will stay in motion until acted upon from an outside force. And then there came the equation formula F equals ma, force equals mass times acceleration. The book described where if you put a force upon a mass, it will accelerate. Now, the book was very interesting. The book went over the notion of how physics works. I was very interested in it. All of a sudden, I just threw away all my biology books. When I mean throw away, I mean I put them in a box and I stored them in the basement. Or I think I gave it to my brother because my brother was also interested in biology. He knew more than I do about biology. Even though I was very crazy about biology, I loved to study animals and how they worked. But then ever since I started reading that physics book, I started being interested in physics. So what I would do is I would go to the library, right? I would get books about physics. I would get books about chemistry, biology as well. I would study. I still study biology. Um, I got anything that had something to do with physics because I knew physics was a study of nature, what the book described. So anything that had something to do with nature, I would read it and understand it and learn it. When I was 13, I got a book of pre-calculus, and I started doing pre-calculus, and I did paper at age 13. And I still got books about mathematics. Um, I got books about particle physics, cosmology, astronomy, astrophysics. I got all those books together, and I started to read them. Sometimes I wouldn't sleep for an entire week because I would read it after bedtime. What happened was when I was told to go to bed, I would sleep, and then after a few hours, when I knew everyone was asleep, I would turn on the small lamp beside my bed, and I would get out the books I got from the library, and I would read it. And if it was a mathematics book, I would take it out and I would write down equations of pre-calculus, physical math. And then one of the books was Physical Science for Progress, written by Milton O. Pella. It was a third edition textbook. I read that book, and it described very well about rocket science, space exploration, motion, particle physics, chemistry. It explained very good on that. So when I went to high school, everything I was taught was just a review. Literally, everything in high school I was taught was a review for me because I already learned about that in the book. I went through 8th grade with no problem because if you understand pre-calculus and if you understand physics, math, you can understand low math that you're taught in middle school and so forth.